improv feels like I get to use my whole, not just my brain, but my being, because I'm moving in and out of characters. So I'm taking on totally different points of view. I'm behaving in wildly different ways, the variety of it, the discovery of it, and I feel completely at ease. I've done it a long time now, but I feel completely at ease not knowing what's going to happen next, partly because I'm 100% certain I'll find something.
ADHD Rewired, episode 112. This is the show designed to help those of us who have really good intentions and a slightly wandering attention. My name is Eric Tivers. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, coach, and consultant. We know that starting can be the hardest part, so let's get started. But first, let me thank our sponsors. It's time for the ADHD Rewired calendar of amazing events. If you missed last week's webinar, join me this Thursday, April 21st at 10:30 a.m. Central Time for an encore presentation of high-tech and low-tech solutions to supercharge your productivity. On Monday, May 2nd at 10:30 a.m. Central Time, I'll show you mine if you show me yours. It's show and tell and get your mind out of the gutter. Ever wonder what apps someone has on their phone? Well, I'm going to share my phone with you, and I'm going to ask you to share yours with us. I'm going to show you my favorite apps. iPhone users will be able to share their phones on screen. Just one more reason I love Zoom. Friday, May 6th, join me for a live strategy session. Bring your questions and let's have a conversation. There will be more details at ADHDrewired.com. I have to figure out those details first, but when I do, they will be there. Go to ADHDrewired.com to learn more about these events, to register for the webinars. And if you're not already on my email list, make sure you sign up so you are in the know. Go to ADHDrewired.com. This podcast is brought to you by the ADHD Rewired Coaching and Accountability Group. Don't wait for this group to sell out. Have the most productive summer you've ever had. Go to coachingrewired.com to learn more and to schedule your free 20-minute consultation with me today. That's coachingrewired.com. And prepare to get your ADHD rewired. Welcome back to another episode of ADHD Rewired. I am here in the virtual ADHD Rewired studios with Rachel Hamilton. Everybody knows Rachel Hamilton as, oh wait, no, that's a different guest. Rachel, introduce who you are so people know who you are.
I'm curious about who this other Rachel Hamilton is that everybody knows, but I'll get to that later. I'm Rachel Hamilton, and I am an improv teacher and performer and director and producer, and now studio owner. And I am a member of the Eric Tivers ADD Rewired coaching group. And I am I won't say proud yet, but I will say I am an acknowledged and growing ADD brained person.
Are you proud of other things?
Yeah, I am proud of other things. It's not that I lack pride or the capacity to feel pride. It's that I'm still in the, I don't know, the word journey feels overused, but I'm still in the development of really accepting my beautiful brain and getting rid of the discouragement of so many years of not knowing what was up with my difficulty with some systems that felt so obvious to other people. And so, I feel like I'm in that acceptance mode. And the fact that I'm on this podcast talking about my ADD, it's sort of a milestone for me. It's like, hello world, I have an ADD brain.
The world appreciates you, and we're family here, right?
Yes, we are. Thank you, world. First of all, I appreciate you too, world. But yeah, it does feel like family. It feels like tribe, like, which is one of my favorite things about the Rewired group is it's like, my people, we get each other. I don't need to explain my ADD to you, although I can describe it, right? Because in my experience, ADD takes so many different forms, but that base level understanding of this is a thing, right? Adult ADD exists. And also it's a struggle. And just to have that be just agreed upon and accepted and that part's over. So we can start from there. That feels like such a relief to be with my tribe.
When, Rachel, did you, when were you diagnosed?
Diagnosed, so I'm 46 now. I was diagnosed officially, whatever that means, probably about 8 years ago. Yeah.
What was going on at that point that brought you to that official diagnosis?
Well, about a year prior to that, and actually I think it was a little younger. I think I was more like 36. So maybe at 35.
No one's going to be fact checking the time frame, so don't worry.
Yeah. Thank God. Thank God. Because I need to be specific about that. But so I was at Burning Man, which is a land of beautiful ADD at work. And a friend of mine recreationally offered me a little Ritalin. So I took some because why not? It's Burning Man. And I had this experience.
What Burning Man is, just for if people have never heard of it.
Oh, Burning Man is a massive festival in the Nevada desert. It's a leave no trace gathering, which means it's a giant expanse of land that is nothing. It's just wide open space until this one week in late August, early September, when 65,000 people converge and make the best camping trip / party / art expression, celebration, creativity blast that I've ever been to. It's the freest place I know. And I've been 13 times now.
Wow.
Last year was my burn mitzvah.
Mazel tov.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Someone made me a tallis and I had a yarmulke with feathers on it. It was very exciting. But so I was at Burning Man and I took a little Ritalin just for, kicks. And I had this experience inside of my brain that was so, I don't even know. It was astounding. It was astonishing. It was, wait a minute. This feels like something that I've only heard about, which is this capacity to have linear thought. And I mean, not that I'd never had linear thought, but just I felt organized in my head in a way that felt really new and really amazing, and also really got me curious. So then I started to read everything I could about ADD and wanting to take a look at it with the possibility that maybe it was something I had. And I started with Sari Solden's book, Women with ADD. And that idea, like one of the major ideas in the book that spoke to me was that particularly for women, this story that we're supposed to be able to do it all, to handle it all, to, historically we're the ones doing 10 things at once.
And you have to make it look easy.
Right. So this thing that I think is quite universally ADD, which is this story before or maybe even after diagnosis of if I just tried harder, if I just put in more effort. So my story for myself had been, I'm just not working hard enough. And so looking through this new lens, it was, I'm working like crazy. I'm actually quite exhausted. I'm just not working efficiently. And no amount of more effort, or the answer to that is not more effort, It is something different.
So before you were at Burning Man and your friend gave you the unauthorized use of a controlled substance, but we'll just want to throw the side commentary that ADHD Rewire does not endorse that practice of unauthorized use of medication. In fact, that's one of the reasons why it makes it harder for us who need the medication to actually get the medication. All of that aside, you took this medication.
Yes.
Were you was this the first time you even thought about ADHD, or was this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it was.
So you said to your friend,
it was.
So why do you actually take this? Is that kind of what was going on?
I mean, sort of. I didn't really get into it too much with my friend, but like I said, I started my own investigation and then started just understanding that some of the stuff that I was struggling with was quite universal. And then a year and a half later, I was at home with my family over Thanksgiving, and I snuck out during Thanksgiving weekend to the Amen Clinic and got a spec test because I wanted to see. I was really struggling with this idea, and this is something I still struggle with, but less, thank goodness, of, is having ADD sort of a cheater's response to not being able to get your stuff together, right? Like, so I really was hard on myself about, if I really have this, I better prove it in 1,000 ways. And so I went to the Amen Clinic. I got a spec test. There's a lot of controversy over whether or not that's the way to go. But whatever the case, the people there were great, and I felt like they were very, wise professional people. And I remember the doctor, not Amen himself, but one of his peeps,
one of his
reading
underlings.
I guess, yes, reading my results, and he said, well, it's not a total train wreck, but I was like, that's a way to start a sentence. He said, it's a total train wreck, but you do have he said, wicked case of ADD. And from that point, I got somehow personally sanctioned to then get myself on some meds and, see a doctor and somehow I'd like earned my own permission to actually claim this. And since then I've been, I continue to track it down. I do as much reading about ADD as possible. And it seems to me 100% that I have this, the struggles of ADD are my struggles.
And here's what's so interesting, I think, about all areas of mental health, is that people want to be told whether or not they're pregnant or not, because it's either you're is or you're not. It's not like you're kind of pregnant. That doesn't actually occur. And I tell people that, we diagnose based on very powerful statistical probabilities, right? Using the power of statistics. And I don't think I could have truly understood that myself on what that actually means until I, took a research course in grad school and understood that is a pretty good way to do it. It's not the best way, it is, but that is the state of the art. And if we're looking at statistics and probabilities and looking at the likelihoods of, when certain factors are met, then we have a percentage or a likelihood of a positive diagnosis. And we look at things like the SPEC scans, it's this desire to have this absolute, but it's, the reason it's controversial is the science does not show, there's too many false positives in it. Where if you look at the DSM criteria, it's probably the other way around, where we're missing a lot of people who are struggling with ADHD, who, because they're one, criterion short of that diagnosis, that they might not be getting the help that they actually need. So, and I think the idea of being able to diagnose based on a brain scan, I think it's a great idea. I think that we will be there in our lifetime. I believe that. But the thing that makes me uneasy about just about Eamon's work is that, you know, the science isn't as strong as what he would like to claim that it is. And I'm glad that you had a positive experience with it. And I don't want to take any of that away for you. And I think it's great that allowed you to move forward with it. But it's these hard conversations. It's to say that, you know, when I'm working with a therapy client and I say to them, you know, it's like, you know, based on everything you've shared with me, based on this criteria, it looks like, you know, that you have ADHD. And, you know, they'll say, well, does that mean that I do have ADHD? And I'll say, well, it looks like it. And we talk about how, like, I cannot tell you with 100% certainty that you have ADHD, right? Just like I can't say to you that with 100% certainty that I have ADHD, but I'm pretty darn sure.
Right. And it's like, to me, it really felt like what that test gave me was this permission to move through, like to open the door of it. And this idea of, I don't get to trust my own experience. I have to wait for some kind of outside, you know, permission / sanctioning of what it feels like to be me, right? It feels almost very ADD in and of itself. This idea of like, I don't trust my own experiences sometimes because I have so many experiences of dropping balls or being inaccurate about things or going down the wrong path or, you know, that I have this plaque is what I call it. This ADD plaque of years of discouragement or, you know, stopping and starting or losing track of things, or so that my experience of, I meet all these criteria. You know, yes, I have, you know, according to this checklist, as you say, I have what presents is what we call ADD, but I still needed some sort of external sanctioning because I don't trust myself often.
And part of that, a good diagnosis too, is getting other people who know you well to also, you know, fill out some of those kind of rating scales, because it's, you know, that self-awareness piece and how we see ourselves isn't always accurate. And it's not that I mean, it's interesting because I know that Russell Barkley talks about how self-awareness is actually an executive function. And I remember when I read that, I was like, that makes so much sense, because how can we modify, adjust, plan what we need to do based on past stuff if we are not aware of what we're actually doing?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Self-awareness is executive functioning. It's also, for me, part of what I love about the group, the Rewired group, is that there's no doubt about it. Like, I'm in that room with 11 other people, that Zoom room, and I see myself all over those people. And there's no doubt, like people are, and I just said I see myself all over them, but I'm going to now make this about them and I guess be patting myself on the back at the same time. People are freaking creative and multi-talented and wildly enthusiastic, really warm, really funny, really like high EQ, high sensitivity. I mean, so when I go into that feels to me like the most validating thing is to be surrounded by other people who define as ADD, and I feel that the recognition and the connection in a very visceral way. So when it gets out of my cognitive of like, am I, do I, don't I, it gets out of my moral weight of like, am I a bad person for having this? Am I a cheater? But when I actually get into my, you know, sensed experience of being with other people who are also ADD, I'm like, yep, 100%. Yes.
It's so interesting too, because I hear this like so frequently, and I think that people are often surprised by how much the emotions kind of play such a big role in in this work that we're doing. It's, people want to come in to be more productive. And I certainly hope that is the one of the outcomes. But I also know that there's much greater outcomes than just better productivity. So what's that experience been like for you?
Well, I would say that I think what interrupts my productivity most of all is my emotions. So to me, they're not even separate. It's that this plaque I'm talking about. So I'm trying to do something that I've tried and failed at before, like, create a new system for tracking my bills. And the minute it goes slightly wrong, it's like I get triggered, or I get this wave of all the times it's gone wrong in the past. And I can go from, 0 to 60 in the discouraged department real quick. Like, so I go to discouragement really quickly. I go to frustration really quickly. And, before, I would say that could often spiral into, not being able to get the printer to work, spiraled quickly into, I don't know how to lead my life. I will never get anywhere. Right. It's like, so like the emotional holes. I think of, was it Yellow Submarine with the Sea of Holes?
I love that movie, by the way.
Literally like just like walking along, and then I'm good to go. And then I can just easily descend and spiral into an emotional hole that will take a tremendous amount of energy and effort to crawl out of. The growth, the change for me is having that process of climbing out being shorter and even seeing it coming, so I can often ward it off at all these days. But the emotional energy expenditure and how hard it is to then reinvigorate, right? To continually reinvigorate, my, to get back on the horse of the project. If I have successfully even remembered where the project is at that point. So just a lot of incompletes in my wake. And I think a lot of that having to do with emotional states. Mm-hmm. So that to me is actually the core work. It's my key to productivity is to more and more move out of shame and move into acceptance and celebration. Because the other part of this, the other part of my story is that I did not have a rough go of it. I grew up in Washington, D.C., and I went to public school, the local public, through sixth grade. And I was, a gregarious, extroverted, funny, friendly kid. And I found drama. I started to do theater in elementary school. And the academic rigor of class was minimal. It was a sweet local school where we're doing Black History Month. And so let's all make puppets of Harriet Tubman for a week. It was like super low challenge, super homey. It was just my brain worked just fine there for what exactly, we got to do skits in the afternoon that we could write, and it was super fun and easy. And then I went to the fancy private school for seventh grade, and I realized something had changed. I remember it's about a month into seventh grade, and I was in history class with Mr. Rosenberg. And I remember that we had been studying Charlemagne, and I was super into Magna Carta, and I got it, and I was psyched. And then he called on me, and he asked me a question about something that came next. Like we had moved on into the next chapter of, English history. And I was astounded. I was like, wait a minute, we're moving. And that kept happening, right? The capacity to keep up with what happened next and what happened next. That was a major learning curve for me in seventh and eighth grade that I only somewhat got better at. But it was a small school. And I think because, we got effort grades at my school, and I'd often get like C+ for the class, but 5 out of 5 for the effort. So my trying was seen and appreciated. And then the fact that I had this other thing that I did, which was drama. That was always my thing. It kind of gave me this not quite academic out, but since I was shining in the drama world, it gave me a pass, I would say, or at least gave me a lens that I was successful through, so that my inconsistencies in my academics were less obvious and also weren't the focus. And I remember I had a teacher, Mr. Klain, RIP, he died this year. Mr. Klain, who was a really great history teacher. And I remember in 10th grade, he started to call me by a new nickname, which was Toast Mind, because he said I would pop in and out of focus. And he said, when I was really in focus, I was so present. And then he said, and then I would just go away. And I think Mr. Klain is officially the first person who saw my ADD, 20 plus years before I saw it.
It's so interesting. And that's one of the interesting things about when I do assessment is to look back at somebody's history and find those kinds of stories. Cause I remember looking back, I think I was, had just graduated from college, and I came across my educational files from like kindergarten on, and I'm looking at it and I'm just like, it was all right there. Why didn't anyone know? It's like,
and why? And they didn't know, right? Because nobody knew, right?
Right. Because I wasn't really. I was maybe slightly impulsive, but not really hyperactive. So I was more the sluggish, dreamy, spaced out kid. Where it's like I wasn't getting in trouble. I wasn't like a bad kid. I wasn't hurting people or things, but it was, the things like, does well when he applies himself. If we put a little bit more effort, homework is sloppy, but when he slows down, can do a nice job. It's all like for years and years, those were the comments.
Right. Yeah. Yes. I have a similar stack, and from early childhood, Rachel needs to share less with her neighbor. Rachel needs to stop the crosstalk. We love Rachel's enthusiasm, and sometimes she's distracting to the classroom, right? Sort of class clown. Mm-hmm. But I guess I've made sense of that by, it just didn't seem like anyone was talking about ADD, even for kids, when I was that age.
Right. Especially now I see these girls.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And also because I was in drama, and because that meant, I was given this space to be louder or, more of a attention getter, or, and I was charming. It worked. So it didn't cause me much pain until I guess probably my late 20s, when things just felt like my capacity to keep track of my business at that point, which was, the business of trying to be an actor in Chicago and then LA, where I just couldn't get traction or consistency the way my friends could.
And I know that doing anything in the creative arts where really that's your profession, that's a lot of work. It's not just, I'm this talented person and someone's going to find me, right? It's like you got to hustle, right?
Right. Yeah. And there's systems, and the systems are all your own, right? So like you had the audition, and then you got to, write to the casting director to say, thank you for the audition. And then you got to submit for the next audition and be sure that your headshots are up to date, and you're, and I was, I remember I was on stage at Second City in Chicago, and I was doing my first main stage show, and it was really high stakes for me.
Yeah.
It's what I'd been really shooting for. And my mom was in town to see the show, and I had to be there at 7 for call, and I left late. So I was already running late. And I got pulled over because I didn't have a rear brake light, which I'd been meaning to fix forever. And then the officer looked at my license, and it was expired, and I had no idea.
Oh, no.
So I have to go to the police station, the curtains at 8:30. It's now 7:45. I'm still at the police station trying to talk my way out. And and of course I wasn't completely tight on my lines either. So I was going to cram and place strategic scripts backstage so I could look at them right before. The whole thing was just it was a house of cards, and it was falling all around me. So I arrived 10 minutes before curtain. The rest of the cast is waiting for me, annoyed, worried. So I'm arriving in this way of super stressed, and I pulled it off because that's what I do. And that's a really, I pulled it off, but I could have been way, way, way better. So I did a lot of pulling things off, but not at my, top performance, because I just didn't have my ducks in a row. Yeah.
Wow. I'm imagining, so you have this great opportunity to main stage Second City, which is, that's like the place for improv, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you pulled over, didn't even realize your tail light, or you knew your tail light was out, but you were planning on, you had good intentions, as we all do.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't even realize your license was expired. It was like everything that could go wrong went wrong at the worst possible time.
And all preventable. That's the, in terms of the discouragement plaque, I would say a primary place for me that really kills me every time is when I try really hard at something and it doesn't end up going well. But then there's the flip side, which is that story of getting pulled over, which is I didn't leave on time. I didn't try my best to get my tail light fixed. I didn't, so there's like the sloppy mistake and there's the trying my damnedest to be not sloppy mistake. And they're both painful, but
when this was all happening, when you're kind of in the beginnings of like stuff's not really going the way you want it to be going, did you have that tendency to blame others, or were you looking at this as your own kind of I screwed up again, or this is I can't believe this happened, I can't believe I got pulled over, I can't. How were you looking at it?
It's an interesting question. I feel like there was so much of that, of like, oops, I didn't pay my taxes, oops, what? I'm supposed to get oil changes? Like so much of that going on, that I almost just skimmed the surface and I didn't really blame, and I didn't really absorb at that point. I just left that mess and went to the next. Life was moving so quickly. No more quick. Like there was just so many, dust ups in a given day or a week or that I didn't really stop and dwell on them, or not even dwell, even be with them. So part of my ADD experience was that I used to move really fast, like stacking stuff. Like, sure, I'll come to your birthday party across the country. Yeah, I'll fly to New Jersey to do that for 2 days. And then I'm going to fly back on a Sunday and I arrive at 6 and I have a show at 8 and I'll do that. And then I'm going to a party after that. And the next morning I'm going, I'm leading a workshop for 3 days that I haven't prepared for at all. But then on Wednesday, I have a friend coming in, and like just that again and again and again, like over programming, but not even realizing that I was over programming quite so much. Like now that's very painful to me because I realize that I can't successfully integrate. And that's a major thing I'm still learning, is how much time between activities, because my brain moves really, really quickly. So my brain can be on to the next thing and, enjoys planning, enjoys being, there's fertile ground for all these exciting things. And then I'll find myself spun out and somewhat exhausted and go, oh, right. Maybe that's because I was at the Oscars on Monday night and now I'm deep in the woods at a camping trip for which I didn't pack on Tuesday morning. Like that kind of thing. It's like just crazy schedule. So I don't think I had a lot of blame because I don't think I had a lot of acknowledgement.
It sounds like there wasn't even enough time to kind of pause and say, you know, maybe what I'm doing isn't working. It was just like, this isn't working. Next thing. This isn't working. Next thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It really came to pass. So after LA, I moved to New York, and New York is somewhere I'd always wanted to be. And I loved New York. I lived there for 7 years, and New York is so fast like that, right? That New York's pace as a city, its own energy is so spinny like that, that the combo platter of me living like that in my head and in my schedule, and then New York doing that too. It's like it came to this head of just, I finally got really dizzy. There was so much spin that I was like, oh, okay, I feel out of sorts a lot. I feel, this, like I started to catch up to me, this chronic feeling of being behind and there's too much. And when can I breathe? And so it started to affect me, I think, like in my early 30s, where I'd slowed down long enough to really feel it.
So then what'd you do?
Sat in the fetal position and cried. No, that's not true. What did I do? That
wasn't until late 30s. The fetal
right.
position.
That wasn't until late 30s. Right. What did I do? I mean, I definitely, so again, in the trying to get, once my vision became bigger of what I wanted to do, that's also when I met a lot of my own, limitations or inabilities to get things done that mattered to me. So the kind of jerry rigging or like the small mistakes or the lack of systems, I would say, started to really catch up with me. And so there was definitely a period of kind of spinning my wheels of like trying to get things started, but I missed the deadline, or I dropped the ball, or I jumped projects, after having started one because that one was less interesting. And so, and it was also tricky because I was married at the time, and my husband was, he was at his dream job at Saturday Night Live, and he was just rocking it. Like just progressing sort of step after step, just doing the due diligence and just getting farther and farther down the path that he wanted to be on. And I wasn't getting the same kind of traction or consistency. It's like I wasn't quite able to build because I wouldn't do the next step. I'd do a different step, or I'd, disrupt the whole situation by going to India for 2 months and coming back. Like it's just like constantly restarting and not following through. Or so I'd say that my early 30s, it was quite started to get painful. And so what did I do? I spun my wheels and tried a lot of stuff, some of which worked and some of which didn't. And so enter that Ritalin experience, where it was
Man.
like, what'd you say? Enter Burning Man.
I'd
already been to Burning Man about 5 times by then.
What'd you call it? The Burning Man mitzvah? The
Burn Mitzvah.
The Burn Mitzvah.
The Burn Mitzvah. Yeah. 13 years at Burning Man. And that's, so environmentally, right? So my main gig now is I'm an improviser. So improv is chock a block full of people with ADD brains, right? In the most creative, beautiful, like can move from, improv, our brains are quick and able to, facile, able to move between worlds really quickly. And that's what we train in. And to be able to drop something and move quickly to the next thing, that's exactly what we need to be able to do. So I was in these environments where so much of what my brain does was not only not a liability, it was an asset. And similarly, just to bring it back to Burning Man, as I said, it's it's an ADD explosion, and ADD being a creative brain, right? It's people whose lack of executive functioning allowed them to build 25-foot fire-breathing rhinoceros that year instead of, whatever, doing what they're supposed to be doing, like being the corporate lawyer. So I had a lot of experience of how my brain worked being an asset. Yeah. But then it's when I was trying to build a bigger vision, a bigger consistency, and then also not feeling comfortable asking for help. So I was trying to do it all myself, still struggle with that some, trying to do it all myself and failing. Yeah.
And what I'm hearing too is I was kind of thinking about where my strengths and my challenges are. And I think all the things that make me a good coach and therapist and speaker, so that's the craft, right? But it's like, I'm in the business of doing those things. And so for me, and I've talked a bit about this on the podcast before, and I've shared this in the coaching group as well, is that this is for me the year of really focusing on both systems, real system development on the business, and looking at the real details of my balance sheets and the stuff that you kind of go like, ew, you're right. It's like let somebody else do that. Like that's where I'm at now is if I want to continue to grow what I'm doing, I know that I need help. And and I've been hiring a little bit of help here and there. And as I'm getting a taste of what I could do with a little bit of help, I want a whole platter of help, right? But I can't. I don't know if I can afford that whole platter of help. So now I'm like, I'm not just going to impulsively. I'll just hire a bunch of people and hope for the best. Like that's I can't do that. If I support my family. I support. It's. So if I'm, quote unquote, investing in my business, I have to really make sure it's an actual investment and not just throwing money and hoping it sticks in the right place. And I think it's a lot of, I've certainly have done that before.
Sure.
So it's really looking at, all right, so we have this craft, we have this talent that we have. How do we build the structures and supports around it so we can really perform at our peak capacity?
Is it driven to distraction where I'm not sure which book it is, but that the CEO of JetBlue gets profiled.
Yes.
And that segment of that book, there's something so like, I long for that. I love the idea of here's this CEO who's obviously incredibly gifted and has so much to offer. And he's created systems systems have been created around him, where he can be exactly as, whatever, frazzle-brained or lack follow through or, but as he needs to be, and he can run or, vision this incredible business that feels really innovative.
I think the story that was in that book was how when the business went public, right, and he made like $1 gajillion like overnight, and he called Hallowell, who was his psychiatrist at the time, and said he still felt like a failure.
Oh,
is that part of what you're referring to, or is that another part of it?
No. What
like,
actually? What I remember,
the story turned out that way. No, it changes everything.
Wow. Well, I mean, I wonder if feeling like
I just
a
told
failure.
You that Santa Claus doesn't exist.
Wait, what?
I feel like I just told you like that Santa Claus doesn't exist. Like you had this like.
Wait, what do you mean? What do you mean he doesn't exist? Are you suggesting that the big red man with the suit and the toys is not? Oh my God, I gotta go. No. Hey
Rachel, we're Jewish.
The part of this ish for me.
Jewish, totally.
The part of the story that resonates with me is that he had this errand to do to like call the arborist for the tree in front of his family home. And he had it on his list. And he, there were like 5 indicators that he was going to do it. He was certain he was going to do it. He was all about it. He took the whoever was writing the segment out and like discussed it. And then when the guy comes back like 6 months later to talk to the CEO again, the arborist has still not been called. And something about that juxtaposition of the tiny task of, those things that people in my life or in my own head can say things like, well, why don't you just, it's the worst. Or in a helpful way, it's like, well, you could just, like, those words, I get defended and sad instantly. Mm-hmm. You could just call the arborist during your lunch break, right? So it seems like a tiny little easy thing to do. Emphasis on seems. Right. The part of myself that says it should be. That is obviously a tiny, easy thing to do. That part he can't get done. But what he can do is run this incredibly profitable business, with all kinds of new ideas that JetBlue brought into the, airline game. So the idea of that being able to coexist, because if I'm judging myself, which I often have been historically, on like, oh my God, that letter that I stamped that was on time, but now I found it at the bottom of my bag, 3 weeks later, and it's covered in gum. And I can go into that spiral of, I can't live my life. I have nothing, my gifts will never be available. I'll never be able to get them to the world because I can't mail a letter. But actually, the fact that I can't mail a letter on time does not mean that I cannot run a business offering, improv to the world in the way that I want to offer it. So that's what I love about that story.
No, and there's so many stories like that too. Just like they were capable of these amazing things, and yet these things that we compare ourselves to what other people say we should be able to do, or if we just do that. I mean, things like for me, like returning a phone call, it's like, that's a hard task for me. Like that is never.
I know, me too.
That is never a just return the call. Like I have to psych myself up to do it. I put it like, it's like the one thing I gotta do today is just return this call. And even the just slipped out totally unconsciously. Right. So it's like,
I know.
You know what I mean? And it's like, but yeah, and I think it's just so important that we honor the things that are challenging for us. And I think part of it too is, how do we get into our emotional why? And that takes a lot of struggle. How do we connect something that's, is just a task to something that's more connected to our greater vision and purpose? Because I think when we could do that, then we find the context for that task, and it takes a different kind of role and meaning in our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And the phone call one, that's super, I mean, for me, even in high school, like I remember the phone, not digging the phone. Like I didn't want to be on it, which felt unusual in high school. And I've always been resistant to, like, I'm bad at returning phone calls. I don't want to make the phone call to the whatever, the internet provider, or God forbid, the health insurance claims department.
Oh, that's the worst.
It's the worst. It's the worst. So I can go into this place where I go, what is that? What is that? And in our group recently, someone pointed out that for him, it's shame, which I think that rang a bell. I'm still playing with like why that is. So I still have this part of myself that's like, what the hell is that? What is that? And now there is some sort of small satisfaction in the fact that the world that we live in right now feels so phone averse. Now phone has become, like, why would you call me? You should just text me. Why? Don't be ridiculous. Like, kids don't talk on the phone anymore. So all of a sudden I feel oddly accompanied now in a way. I used to be quite alone in my phone distaste.
I've recently updated my voicemail message. And this is for my business, where I actually now say, please do not leave me a message. Go to my website and schedule a call. Because for me, if it is on my calendar, it will happen. And 99% of the time, it will actually happen right on time. Today's call, which started 15 minutes late, is absolutely an exception, Rachel. Because...
Please, I was delighted. Yes. 15 minutes late always works for me. Always.
No, because it's... And then I can also... I have it in front of me what the purpose of this call is. It has a designated time frame. It has parameters. It has notes.
Yeah.
It's, and for... And I've been looking for ways to where someone can actually dial into a system that can then just put it onto my calendar versus having to take that extra step. Because it's like, I don't want to lose a potential client because they, intended on going to my website and scheduling that call.
Right.
But it's just like that feeling of, and I've done it more times than I care to admit, where it's like I have that call that I never returned. And I think about it, and it's soul sucking. It's just like
it is soul sucking. It is soul sucking. And so, as you're explaining it, it's true. Like there's something about I want it on my terms. I want my notes. I want which is a funny place for me where my ADD meets. I call it OCD, but it's not even that. But like, I think part of. So I have a dear friend who is a hot mess in terms of the way that she lives, right? I go to her house and there's just piles on top of piles and 900 mismatched things on the coffee table that you have to scooch over to, have your dinner plate on there. And the glorious thing about it is she doesn't care. It does not bother her. And I'm filled with envy of that. And it's also that I realize that not only do I want my spaces, like when my spaces are not clean or not organized, I want them organized, not just mildly. I want them labeled and specified and, put into compartments that are super like a Japanese bento box of just perfection. And so the distance between how I actually live and my ideal is the painful part, right? Whereas my friend, she's like, yeah, sorry, it's a mess, like she's mildly bothered. But that place where I
remember when it's one of our coaching sessions where you're like talking about how like your kitchen counter is driving you nuts, and so we're like, let's see it. How bad is it?
Yeah.
And you showed us, you pointed your camera on it, and we're all like, Rachel, I would be happy with if that was, and so it was just so funny that the perspective that all this stuff takes. I'm looking at my counter and my desk right now. Yeah. There's certainly more. I can't really see most of the surface area of my desk at the moment. Just saying, but I have a new client today, and what that's going to do, that's going to allow that magic to happen in my brain, or the thing that I think will take me an hour to do, actually I can get done in 5 minutes, because I don't want a new client to come into my office with a messy desk.
Right. But of course you're an ADD coach, so they know, right?
But I like to play the game where it's like, it's why I invite people over to my home. It's like an excuse to clean up.
Yeah.
Because otherwise,
totally. Totally.
So let's improvise a little bit, because I'm looking at my timer and I just have this thought of,
okay,
I never cut to the commercial break. So we're going to improvise. And so, Rachel, you've been part of this coaching group. We are now in the middle of week 8. Give people the honest plug of like why someone would want to sign up for this coaching group, kind of relating it to your experience.
Okay. The honest plug. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m., because I live in California, I get to sign into a room where I get to be with my tribe, with 11 other participants and Eric, and I'd show up. It's a total come as you are party, right? There's no, unlike so many other experiences I have, I don't need to explain why I'm 2 minutes late. I don't need to justify why I don't have mascara on. I feel just completely comfortable. That's it. Like I'm with people who get it. And it being that I am sometimes super together and sometimes kind of a hot mess, and that my value or my worthiness doesn't depend on that. So it feels like this really safe space filled with comrades, all of whom, as I mentioned before, are incredibly multi-talented, really interesting, funny, warm, supportive, and they get it. So I love the goal setting because it allows me to track what it is that I'm doing, and many techniques and tips about, how systems to use, and keeping me honest with what I'm actually doing or not doing. And often I'm not doing the goal, but that in and of itself is interesting because it's why didn't I do the goal, right? So for me, actually, I'm still working on how to set goals for myself in a way that feels like they capture my attention and my commitment. So then on Wednesdays, we do study hall, which I love, which is turning on the Zoom room and doing the task that we said that we would do. And I love having you, Eric, chime in every now and then and be like, are you doing what you said you'd be doing? If not, please bring your attention back to what you said you'd be doing. And it's like the best kind of hand holding, and it really, really helps. So I'm learning, right? By practicing staying consistent, by practicing accountability, by practicing showing up, practicing consistency. It feels like I'm getting skills, like the metadata of getting the skills of getting the skills. And then on every other Wednesday, we do a mastermind where people bring in any challenge that they're having in their own lives. And then the others, we all circle and say, we reflect, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I'm hearing. And then we offer ideas. And here's who you want ideas from: really bright, cool ADD people, because they're creative, they get it, they've had to do 1,000 workarounds themselves. It's never boring. It's fertility. It's fertile for my brain. I go, oh, look at all these other ways of doing things. It reminds me that I can do things other ways too, and that there is support for me in the world. And then Fridays, we often do gratitudes. And I feel like staying in my gratitude is one of the key skills for my own happiness, my own well-being, and curbing some of that emotional volatility I was talking about. And so I'm excited about it. I'm excited about it every time, and I haven't missed one.
That's amazing. I do have to say that the 2 sessions that we're going right now, that the attendance overall has been like so high in compared to past groups, that, it seems like each group, it's been like and it's little changes that I have made in the group. And, cause I think it was my first or second group where, I think there was maybe 7 people who would consistently show up. Like it began with 12, and then it was like, week 4, it was like, we have 9, week 6, it was like 5, it's like, and people are just keep showing up. And that just, it's, it's, I don't know. It's a gratifying thing just to see. And I was talking with someone from our group yesterday, and they were kind of sharing with me a little bit that they were sort of like, they sort of feel themselves like checking out a little bit. And I'm like, but here's the awesome thing: you're feeling like checking out a little bit, and you're still here. And the group is designed to be 10 weeks because I know we can really muscle through staying focused for 6 weeks. We can really do that, right? It's when we're getting into week 7, week 8, or we're at right now, where we're like, okay, like the real work is now happening, right? It's like, this is no longer new and shiny. Like, this is like, how do I live my life in a way that honors who I am as a person, that doesn't beat myself up, that like is continuously going through this life as an experiment of, let me try this because I'm struggling with this. Let me see how this is working. Oh, that didn't work so well. Let me try to figure out why that didn't work so well. What kind of tweak can I make to see if that can improve a little bit? Okay, so that kind of worked. Where else can I apply that? Instead of like saying, oh, that's another thing that didn't work. I can't do this, and so I think that's why I really like the length of the time. It's like hard, it's long enough where it starts to feel like you got to push a little bit through this is no longer new.
Yes. I'll say that in my experience, I want more, right? It's not long enough.
Yeah.
And it's also, I think, because of the way I have my own business, I create my own schedule. So I have very few routines in my day, and having this appointment with this tribe that I so dig 3 times a week at 9 a.m. for me. I love the consistency of it, and it launches me into my day in such a, like, it's not uncommon for me to come and not have done my homework, or to be in some, difficult place of, my motivation's down. I screwed this up. I feel meh, right. But that it feels like that's part of my accountability, is to go and just be, transparent about that. And then realize that, I get some encouragement, or I get to then, kind of move through that, because instead of sitting and continuing to beat myself up about it and then blow off the group because I can't show up until I'm ready to, look ship shape. Like, there's already an agreement that we're not here we're here because we're not feeling ship shape.
Right.
So, and to see other people's not ship shapeness look so great on them, I'm like, oh, okay. Like you say, I'm so sorry I was 15 minutes late. I go, thank you. Love that about you.
I mean, it's funny. It's amazing to me when we share the thing that we're feeling the most amount of shame about, how it frees up this mental space that allows us to actually then move forward and making progress in that particular area. Yeah. I was sharing with the group that I was going like, well, I originally said it was like about 2 weeks or so that I like, that planning book that I, talked to you guys about, and how I plan, like, I haven't touched it in 2 weeks. And so I was talking about that for like 2 weeks, how I haven't been planning. And like, that's a big core of like how I do what I do, is how important planning is for me. And then, so I share that with both groups. And I also share that with my personal coach. And it was like, after sharing that with like multiple people who like I feel have earned their right to hear that, and now everyone listening as well, it unlocked something in me. And I had been looking for a new tool because my needs are kind of adjusting as I'm building a team. And I'm like, what? Let me just go back, because when I've been in this place before, or I've been looking for the tool and I haven't found it, what has worked is just to go back to the basics and just pick back up where I left off with what was working. And I did that. And I had like that Wednesday study hall, I had like 4 hours of basically planning, like the whole day. And it was probably the next 2 days that followed were probably some of the most productive days that I had. Ooh. I mean, it was so amazing.
Wow.
And I shared that because it's like, here I am as like, I'm the therapist and coach, and I'm the expert. It's like, but I'm as ADHD as they come, right? It's like, I know what to do, and I'm inconsistent. It's like, yeah. And I just know how powerful, like, where I don't even do that much individual coaching anymore, because the group dynamic, there's something that happens in group that you cannot get in individual coaching.
That is so true. And that's one of the, I mean, I know that because I've been in other kinds of groups. I know the power of the group, but this kind of consistent group around this particular issue for me, I mean, the shame-free conversations about things like medication and sleep and food and, relationship that happen in, moments in the group, and then the Facebook group, which is alive and kicking. It's the only Facebook group I've ever been involved in that I actually feel connected to. That's very telling for me. To be able to just be understood so quickly. And the fact that you are in the mix as well, that you're teaching what you need to learn, which I think all great teachers do. And also you are 10 steps ahead of us down the road. And so you know the territory better than us. And you bravely say, I just fell into this pothole. There's a pothole here, you guys. Be cool. There's a pothole. Ouch. For me, it's very... Nobody panic. I'm climbing out. And then the way I find, I love the way you skillfully incorporate the emotional stuff, right? That you know, your Brene Brown work, I think, is completely well aligned and relevant. And, you know, what is it? Because like I said, for me, it's the stories about my own experience of myself, the emotional content that feels the most damaging. Like, hooray if my files get into order. But that's a much less relevant healing that needs to happen than my acceptance of the fact that I drop balls sometimes, and I still get to, you know, walk the world as a person who deserves to be here, right? That, like, what it does for my self-esteem and my, and that's very Sari Solden too, of like, there's some self-esteem damage to those of us who came up with ADD, diagnosed or undiagnosed. So you move us in and out of, you know, it could be so easy for us to go down a rabbit hole of sadness for the full hour, but it's like you acknowledge the sadness and then you bring in some practical skills around it and some, so it's both practical and, heart led. Like there's heart and tactics, and that really matters to me.
Well, I like that description because I'm always trying to be very cognizant of this isn't a therapy group, right? But it's like so much of the work. It's like, where is that line? And it's, you know, and as a licensed trained therapist, I have to be very kind of cautious and conscious of that. Not always an easy thing to do.
Yeah. But the idea of being able to talk about my lateness without the feeling that's associated to it or with it, that's an arbitrary line. Like I couldn't.
It seems weird to even think about that.
Right. My struggles by, my expired driver's license is as much about it as my expired driver's license as it is about my shame about not knowing that I have an expired driver's license. So they're both there. And to do one without the other would be, unnatural.
I think that the thing that came to mind for me would be about as helpful as the recommendation for someone who was having a hard time getting things done is, why don't you just write it down?
Oh my God.
Have you thought of using a calendar?
Yeah. Oh, you want to lose weight? Okay, here's what you should do. Get a lot of exercise and eat much less. Oh, thank you. Oh, I thought it was all Cheetos and Netflix. I must have been doing it wrong. Yeah. And people are so loving. I mean, they're saying it because it seems that easy for them, which actually, circling back to this idea of help, I feel like getting the right help, for me, it's not so much a financial question. It's what is the help? Like, who can help me? Who can climb into this swirl with me? And I can feel not judged by, and you can get it in a way that feels useful. And we can, I think finding the right help, like finding people who, like coaches, or certainly coaches, but assistants or accountants or any role in my life that I need help with, who have some understanding and respect for ADD.
Yeah. So Rachel, let's do this. I know we're going towards the end of our time here. And thank you for everything that you shared, but I don't want to let you go before you talk a little bit more about improv and what you do professionally and how people can kind of find out what you do. So take as much time as you have to talk about the magical world of improv that you create, and even talking about the podcast that you are starting here.
Yeah. So when I was a freshman in college, having been an actor kid, an improv group came to my dorm to do a show. And within about 10 minutes of that show, I was just wanting to get up and join them. Like, there was something so primal about what they were doing, which was essentially playing with their, storytelling and gaming with their minds. And it looked like a really fun challenge, and it was really funny. And that was always something still something I love being a part of. And so improv pulled me in hook, line, and sinker when I was 18. And I've been doing it ever since. And the way that I've been improvising, so as I was mentioning, I used to be very much in the showbiz world and working or trying to work as much as possible as a professional actor, an improviser in Chicago and then in LA, and continually finding myself back in small scale live, black box improv shows. So maybe 100-person seats, and anything from 2 to 6 people on stage, 2 to 6 improvisers. And we just get a suggestion and we do what's called long form improv, where we just go. And it can take many forms. Sometimes it's one big 1-act play. Sometimes it's multiple scenes overlapping that sort of give us the first entry into a world. And then at any point, we may re-enter that world by just editing the previous scene and taking us to the next beat of that original scene. And so it's this, like, it feels like my brain is, I'm thinking about, I think the word is a Van der Graaf generator. I didn't really pay attention to science in high school, but that big orb where there's just a lot of lightning going on in it, that's what my brain feels like. It just feels lit.
The plasma ball.
The plasma ball?
Yeah. Isn't that what that is?
I think I don't know. I think they also sold it for parties at Spencer Gifts.
Yeah.
Anyway, so like a ball of
it has electricity that you put your fingers on it and it will attract to where your fingers are. Right?
Yeah. That.
Yeah.
Yes.
I often use it as an analogy for attention.
Okay, cool. So with the plasma ball analogy, improv feels like I get to use my whole, not just my brain, but my being, because I'm moving in and out of characters. So I'm taking on totally different points of view. I'm behaving in wildly different ways, the variety of it, the discovery of it, and I feel completely at ease. I've done it a long time now, but I feel completely at ease not knowing what's going to happen next, partly because I'm 100% certain I'll find something. Like, it's always something that I never run out, right? It's this the idea flow that can feel somewhat burdensome sometimes in real life, because the ideas just keep flowing. And I have to, pull over and do audio notes or scribble into the, stop my downward dog in the middle of yoga class and run over and write down my idea for the new show I want to do, or for the song lyric I just wrote. Like, my creativity is often in flow in all the time. But in improv, it's that's what allows me to just relax into it and do it. And so the things that I, in such an ADD way, where the things that might be really simple for someone else, I think when I go, the way that I employ why don't you just, for me, that's like, well, why don't you just jump into that character and tell your point of view and create a whole world around that? Like, what's the problem? So really easeful with being on the spot. Mm-hmm. And I love bringing that to other people. So that's what I love. So now I'm largely, I perform and I teach even more than I perform. And part of what I love about the teaching is giving people this permission to just flow, right? It's actually, teaching improv can be more about removing obstacles than it is about learning anything, right? To let, whatever that means, give permission to play someone very different than yourself. So I can't play bossy. I've spent my whole life trying not to be bossy, and like removing the barriers to letting that person be the bossiest person ever in a scene is really fun. It feels like freedom. It feels like breaking through the sort of scrunched up version of, permission of who a person's allowed to be according to their own upbringing or culture or whatever. So it's, and what it does is, because improv is also about agreement and about acceptance, right? You have to agree to what your fellow players have offered because we're making it up. So that's what we do. We agree and accept in a series of sort of bricks that then build the structure of our scene. All of that agreement and acceptance creates such an openness that improvisers meet and connect really fast, like friendships, relationships, marriages, teams that last for decades, right? It's such a way of walking the world.
I have to imagine that this would be so powerful, like in the business world, like for business teams to like understand and know how to do improv, like bring that into a creative, business focused environment. Do you do any of that?
I do a lot of that. Yeah, I do a lot of that. I do. I work a lot with UCSF Medical Group, which is this huge hospital medical, entity out here in San Francisco. And so one day I'm working with 15 of their pharmacists to help them be more at ease with their interactions with a wide variety of humans and attitudes. And then, the next day I'm working with MDs who need some awareness about their communication with patients. And so it's really, I call improv, it's Courage Academy. It's Empathy School. It's Connection Camp. It's all these different, what you may call soft skills, human relational skills, with this foundation of courage, which is really the core. Because, I teach these days a lot in tech startups. So we're doing some presentation skills with these guys who are, from all over the world. English is their second or third or fifth language. They're brilliant tech minds, and now they're being asked to present in front of large groups of people, which is not their core competency, nor have they ever done it. So working, some practice, right? Just like the gym of getting into there and just playing with that. And I remember this one guy recently, he'd been very quiet throughout his presentation. I kept asking him to speak up and using techniques to, expand his range and play with getting like what will allow him to raise his volume. And he came up to me afterwards and he said, when he speaks in English, he's quieter and he slows down. But when he's in his native tongue, Bengali, he's loud and he's fast. Huh. And the moment he said that, all of a sudden, I just felt this connection in him that I got it. And so for him, I said, if you're giving a presentation, go ahead and share that with the audience beforehand. Like, let them know that what you just told me, and that courage to be transparent, will create a different connection with your audience. And get a microphone. Explain that that's why you're using the microphone. So improv is this incredible multi-tool that both allows you to, he can work on being louder and more, bring more presence to his English speaking. And he can understand that if he has the courage to stand in front of a group and tell them who he is, then he's already 75% of the way there. Like, we're going to listen differently. Yeah.
As you're sharing that, one of the things that came to mind and very naturally, I am a mumbler. But I'll be sitting in the car with my wife, and 5 times she'll say to me, "What? And it's just like, and so when I first started presenting, one of the things I would actually start my presentations off with is I would say, I have this gift of being able to say an entire paragraph of thought all as one word. So if that happens and you're like, what did he just say? Raise your hand and, just shout at me to slow down and And by doing, and I was presenting at a CHAD meeting. This is 5 or 6 years ago, and I was modeling some behavioral tracking, and I had a pitch counter, and I was using my own pitch counter for when I thought I mumbled, and then I had someone in the audience use a pitch counter to count how many times they couldn't understand what I had said, and it was like just that awareness of it, and like I don't really mumble now when I present. Now, when I'm sitting in the car with my wife, I still mumble. But in other situations where I need to be understood, I don't. So it was just really interesting that when you were talking about share that with people.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
also that capacity. So I started out this conversation by saying that, in the middle of really, being able to be proud of my ADD brain, because I'm still sort of halfway coming out, there's a little bit of story around that's still being changed, right? That sort of my old way of thinking of like, oh, I should be able to do this, and clearly I'm lazy or stupid or I'm ill-equipped or all that, right? That's almost gone. And what's exciting about it is that on the other side of transparency, of being able to say whatever, fantasies of having an email signature that says, if I don't respond to your email within 2 days, please ping me back. It's not because I'm ignoring you. It's because I got a wicked case of ADD. I want to read what you have to say. Like, there's just freedom in letting the world know who I am. And so what you're saying is like, that guy or you, it's not that you're going to be a perfect speaker all of a sudden, but if actually what I want out of a presentation, the most valuable thing I can do is establish rapport, establish connection with my audience. And there's nothing more connecting than, telling you who I am. Legitimately. Because what's the alternative? Like, I'm going to practice my mumbling 100,000 times and then I'm going to be the world's slickest presenter? Maybe. So I leave going, oh, that guy was slick. I think I liked what he had to say. Versus like, oh, I felt connected to that person. He's got his own struggles. What's my, like, I think there's great healing in us admitting our own challenges.
Our own being humanness.
Yeah. But we're rewriting that story, I think, because I think the whole idea of ADD being something that we talk about. A member of my family who is a 10th grader now has been diagnosed ADD, and I'm kind of jealous because it's early. There's so much acceptance in his school around it. He gets to, it just doesn't have the same trigger or button or something as it does for me. And I'm really excited for him that he doesn't have to get over that because it's not being built in the first place.
I think you're so close to being, there, wherever there is. And just so you know, the stories that we tell ourselves about, oh, am I just lazy? Am I all this stuff? Like, Rachel, I tell myself those stories too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so,
and I think probably non-ADD
go away completely.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So, I think some of the primary tools are compassion and acceptance and humor. God bless humor. If we couldn't laugh at this, it'd be much more painful.
Yeah.
Sometimes
the crap that we do is just so insanely, like, absurdly funny. Like, I mean, it's the things like, I think I was sharing this story. I had a client that, so my worst case scenario for new client situation is when I have two new clients that start around the same time that both happen to have the same first name. Oh yeah. This is a nightmare for me. Because without fail, I will I will confuse some of the details, think one person is the other person. And as I'm sitting there with this client and we were talking about some scheduling things and we made this a little bit of a schedule change, and most of the scheduling stuff is done on my website. So I'm not even involved with it. I have the system that kind of takes care of it. And so we made the schedule change in my office. And then so I said, oh, so that Thursday appointment, so I should just take that off the calendar. Like, yeah. But that was the different Thursday appointment. And so on that Thursday, that other client was sitting in the waiting room for a half an hour and then texted me while I've been sitting here in my office with the door open. I'm like working on a presentation that I'm giving the next day. And I just walk out into the waiting room and I was like, so ADHD just won today.
And how did they respond?
You know, I owned it. I used a humor out of it. I, sat with them for 20 minutes without charging them because I was like, I screwed this one up. This is my bad, right? And what's so great though is that those things happen. So that used to be the story of my life. I used to do that kind of stuff all the time, and now my quota is maybe I do that kind of stuff twice a year now, and I'm like, I do a victory lap now every time I actually do that because I just look at that kind of stuff. I'm like, I used to do that all the time. And now it's just, it's a blip on the radar now. And it's like, that feels awesome. I know I'm always going to have those blips on the radar. It's like, it's okay. It's okay because I use them for teachable moments and humility. And it's like, I no longer feel, I think, bad about the times that I screw up because I always look at them as, what can I learn from this?
Cool. Nice.
99% of the time.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Right. Yeah. We all have our blips, right? These are not bad blips as far as blips go.
Anything.
The ADD blips are blips I could live with.
Anything and everything with Michael Murphy. Tell us quickly what that is.
Well, so Michael Murphy is the founder of the Esalen Institute, which is one of my favorite places on earth. And he's a neighbor of mine, and he has agreed to do a series of conversations with me that I'm calling Anything and Everything with Michael Murphy. And we're not sure what we're doing with those yet. I'm not sure if they'll be released as podcast or it's we're improvising. It's content dependent. So if I also, offered him to do the sort of Mark Twain thing that we could just put him in a vault to be released 100 years from now. But what's exciting about it is that I've been wanting to podcast for a very long time. And when Michael Murphy said he would create this series of conversations with me, it got me into action about, I got my new microphone and I learned the tech of how to at least, capture the content on Audacity. And I admitted it to my class last night that I'm podcasting. So I'm taking steps into this exciting realm of having conversations with people I admire and want to talk to, which is maybe my favorite thing to do, right? This is my jam, is to chat with smart, cool people I like yourself. So I'm really excited about it. And I don't have a place for you to go find it yet, but my website in general is rachelhamiltonimprov.com. And I teach out of San Francisco. I also teach on the East Coast in New York with regularity. And then I do all kinds of customized corporate workshops for various clients, often private ones. But then sometimes I do corporate workshops called Courage Academies that are day-longs for non-actors who want to get some of the juice of improv for creativity and self-expression and presentation and courage. And you can find all of that on my website, rachelhamiltonimprov.com.
I love it. And of course, all those links will be in the show notes. Rachel, thank you so much for sharing your stories and for helping everyone else here get their ADHD rewired. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you.
If starting is the hardest part, finishing is a close contender. And here we are at the final stretch. And if you're new to the show, welcome to ADHD Rewired. We are more than just a podcast. We are a community focused on learning, growing, and connection. You could see a full outline of this and all other episodes with all the links and resources mentioned on today's show at ADHDrewired.com. As always, there are a number of ways you can support this podcast. Make it a mission to tell at least one person this week about the podcast. And if you're with them in person, ask them for their phone and subscribe to the podcast for them right there. If you haven't done so already, please go to iTunes or Stitcher and leave an honest rating and review. Yes, it makes a huge difference. Set a reminder so you don't forget. You think I'm kidding? I know some of you have been listening for 2 years. Yes, this podcast is just about coming up on its 2-year anniversary. And you still haven't left a review. Seriously? Come on, send me some 5-star love. And thank you. You can also help support this podcast by checking out my sponsors. I use Zoom video conferencing every day, and so can you. Go free or go pro, but please go to erictivers.com/Zoom so they know that I sent you. And get a free audiobook from Audible at audibletrial.com/ADHD Rewired. And next time you shop Amazon, use the Amazon search portal at my website. A small percentage of your purchase will go to support this show, and it doesn't cost you any extra. Get a jump start on your summer productivity. Our coaching and accountability group begins May 16th. These groups sell out fast. Go to coachingrewired.com for more information and to schedule your free screening call with me today. Do you know that I give talks and all-day workshops? If your school, business, organization, or conference planning committee is looking to hire that person to give an incredible, educational, inspirational talk on ADHD, then look no further than erictivers.com. Click on Talks at the top of the page. Don't just be a passive listener. Become an active member of the ADHD Rewired community. We're on Facebook. You can like our page, but submit your request to join our free and growing community. Watch for a message from me on Facebook because I screen everyone before they come into the group. Production support for this podcast comes from the master of mediocrity himself, Tom Nardone. Go to tomnardone.net to check out his blog, podcast, and to get a copy of his awesome personal memoir, Chasing Kites. Hey, Tom, do you have anything to add? Until next time.